Hi, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all doing good. So today I'm going to talk about Spring and MongoDB. What is MongoDB? Uh, how I am going to write a simple application to store some content into the Mongo database, and I can able to do some kind of aggregations, and I can able to retrieve the Mongo data. And sorry for the disturbance of the phone call. Some of the architectures of a MongoDB and different forms of the Mongo cluster. Yeah, that definitely will enable you to understand how this product is being really being built it for the real use cases. Okay, let's jump in. Do not delay it. So the use case is very simple. We are developing a simple application to store a web hosting data into the Mongo store. So like who is hosting a particular domain and what is the name of the domain. So we can get the list of domains and we can do some kind of aggregations like some kind of a sample, pipeline aggregations. How we can do the pipeline aggregation using Spring Mongo library. And this is a very simple, microservice based application which is implemented Spring Boot and integration with Spring Data, Mongo. And I have exposed three REST endpoints where we can test the use cases. And also we can do the data lookup from the in-memory MongoDB server. Yeah, definitely there are beautiful tools hosted from the MongoDB team. So you can use Mongo Compass in case if you want similar to SQL or Toad kind of a tool. But in my exercise, I'm not going to use the MongoDB Compass. This is for your informative purpose. I'm using Mongo Shell. So that means I use like a black screen shell similar to the the Linux terminal. Now let's dive into the MongoDB. So MongoDB is a NoSQL data store engine. That means everything, the content is being stored as a document underneath a file system. So this is a distributed data storage engine. That means your data gets split across the nodes and stores it. The metadata will be maintained at some place called config servers. I'll give you a little more detail. Don't worry about it. Uh, this structure we call it as a JSON. Yeah, you can see here JSON. JSON nothing but a JavaScript object notation. So as I was telling that we need to understand how MongoDB has been implemented. So MongoDB has been implemented using C++ is the language which has been used it, and it follows a master and slave. That means whatever the writes or reads which is happening through Mongo database, it should go through the primary master service because that will have the consistency of the data. That's the reason you always connect to the the primary service. That is called a master service and slave service. Yes, slave service also it is available. What happens? Whatever the master has been recorded, the same data has been replicated into the slave nodes. Ideally, okay. So slaves sometimes can have a stale data, but master always have a consistent data. That's the key difference between master and slave architecture. You're supposed to know it. All NoSQL engines supports different characteristics from a cap theory. According to MongoDB, it supports only the two types of characteristics. One is a consistency, the other one is a partition tolerance. These two are supported. That means, as I said, whatever the primary node which is receiving the request always has a consistency of your data. That means now I stored ID is 1, name is Narayana, for example. If I'm updating, say, ID, the same ID, I'm changing Narayana to Narayana Basetti. What happens? The data is consistent. I'm going to manage and maintain it. So this partition tolerance means your data has been split into parts. These parts are being stored underneath a cluster called shared cluster. I'll come to what is shared cluster. That's how this concept is being supported from the MongoDB standpoint of view from the CAP theorem. So you can see that there are different varieties of NoSQL engine supports. Apache Cassandra, it supports consistency plus availability. Those two characters which will support. Likewise, different databases, different things. Please go ahead and read. In MongoDB, we also use a key. That key we call it as a partition key. That means your data is being partitioned across different nodes based on your key. So if it is hosted on the shared cluster base, if it is a replica set, then the same data will be available across master and slave. Okay, so ensure that your partition key manages and maintains a unique data set, otherwise your data gets updated. Be careful about it. Okay, so as I was telling, there are different forms of Mongo clusters. So one is a replica set. What is replica set? Ideally, there will be a master, there will be slaves. That means always your application talks to the primary or the master service for reading or writing your content into the service. That service will be replicated to the slaves over a period of time. So that's the reason slaves can have stale data as well. Possible, definitely. So one of the primary service which is running, say it has been killed, the slave becomes primary, whichever one of them becomes primary in case of a replica set. Say if it is a shared cluster, the shared cluster has multiple shards. Each shard will have underneath a replica set. I can demonstrate in the next slide. So that is the very high level. When do we go with the shared cluster? When do we go with the replica set? Say if you are building an application which is a microservices based application, then replica set is a better form of cluster you can use. In case if you have an enterprise grade and large applications interacting, data exchanging between multiple applications, you need to properly manage and maintain. In such case, and also data partitioning you wanted, when it is being stored billions of records, that moment you can go with the shared cluster. So we have discussed about MongoDB supporting characteristic consistency. Consistency means whenever you are storing something, ensure that data state will be always same until it it has been updated. That updation also have a proper consistency. So that is what you're supposed to manage and maintain with the MongoDB as well, like RDBMS based ACID compliant, something like that. And partition data, your data distributes across the different nodes. So now you can see here replica set cluster. So this is a simple diagram which I have uh, taken up from the Mongo website. So you can also go ahead and read these things. So client application is basically establishing a Mongo client using the libraries, and then a driver, that is an application main class where you write and call. So you always call a primary server. Primary server either read or write it takes. If it is a write, what happens? Primary service has a consistency of the data, and then this data gets replicated across slaves. That is a secondary. This is a master, this is a slave. So this gets replicated across the nodes. Okay. So one of the primary, that is what I was telling here, if it gets killed, one of the secondary become primary. Here I have only one primary, so I would say that yes, this is possible to die due to some reason or dead by the service. So one of them become secondary, become primary. So here you will have the similar kind, but we'll understand. So this is what a replica set. This is one type of form of cluster which is used along with the microservice. If it is single microservice bind with, then it's a good fit. Okay, let us consider that as I was telling you, I want my data to be sharded across different nodes. Whenever I wanted to retrieve it, it should be quick enough to get. Here, data will not get distributed in the replica set. But in this case, yes, it is. So here you have a three types of different components. One is an app server router component and config server, and you have a shard nodes. What are these? App server is a routing. So whenever I have a client application, something like that, it will be here sitting. It will make a call to this router, that is a Mongo as saying that seeking some data which has been written by another application. What happens here? The request received from the client, then it received by the router. Okay, this router will seek the config server. I have, this is the identifier, the shard key. Whenever you are storing, you have to use a shard key, seeking that shard key metadata from the config servers. Config server aware of where that shard key data has been distributed. Here in this particular case, we can see only shard 1 and shard 2, two shards. In the enterprise, you will have as many as. So where are all the nodes which has the data? Every shard represented again a replica set. That is what I was telling. Try to understand the replica set first, then you can understand this. So here data will not get distributed, but here yes. So your shared key will be partitioned into two or more nodes, depends on how the internal algorithms used by the shared cluster concepts. Okay, so in this particular case, as I was telling you, so the shard will have a replicas. So this replica will have underneath the master slave architecture. Here you always talk to a router. So that is the advantage of the Mongo. The majority of this session, I cannot give you more deep down of these clusters. Definitely you can go ahead and read out. So let us understand our use case. So here I have simple microservice. I have a MongoDB integration framework, and which is in-memory Mongo server, which is running as a Java library. So this is the use case application I want to talk. These are self-explanatory. So as I said, the Mongo Compass is a like SQL, a developer or a Toad kind. And MongoDB is implemented using C++ language, and you can establish minimum 1,000 connections at the same time. The additional advantage of the product. You can go through the reference links if you have a time, if you want to learn more and more. As I wanted to say that in this particular exercise, I'm going to give you Mongo shell based exercise along with application. Thank you. Happy learning. Now let's jump into the real hands-on session. So now I am at the workbench. I have a README file. Definitely, you can go ahead and read. The source code is also available in the Git. Okay. So what I am saying is, I have a simple application. This application, during the starting up time, I am storing www.narayana.com 10 times, 10 records. and Bassetti.com 20 another 10 records. That means total 20 records as of now, and remaining 10 records as a unique records. These are all duplicate records. Say for example, I am considering for a sample demonstration, and it is being loaded during the starting up of my application, that is a Spring Boot application. And then I have three endpoints I wanted to get based on the fixed domain, that is Narayana domain. How many times this domain has been stored data inside the Mongo database. And I wanted to find based on the domain name based also. Yes, I can go ahead and find out. I can supply the domain name as a command line and I can do the aggregation. Okay. So here I have a application config where I'm creating the Mongo server, which is of a inline. You can go ahead and read. And I'm using Spring Data repository. I'm representing which repository package I need to refer. Yes, I have a domain repository. In the domain repository, I have which is inheriting the Mongo repository, and I have the three operations: find Narayana domain, find by domain name by passing the domain name. Okay, and I have aggregation, the pipeline aggregation, wherein I am going to do some group by. So in the group by, which will be giving you some result, that result I take and then I do a descending order, and then I am projecting as a final result to my application. So this is an entity object model domain, so which has three fields. So these are all self-explanatory. Here is one key important thing I wanted to highlight is the document. So this is a Spring Data Mongo which supports a document, because as I was telling, it's a Mongo documents based database engine. Okay, so that's the reason. So this will give you result, so that whatever the aggregation results, we can see it. So now what I can do is I'm going to start this service. So Mongo DB application, I'm starting. So you will see here one of the error. Yes, you can accept it and you can ignore it as well, both the ways. Okay, because when I start the Mongo service, that will look for a Mongo monitoring already running service, but right now I'm starting. That's the reason you see that error. That's okay. Now you can see that bulk save success. As I said, during the starting up of my service, I'm loading the certain records. Now whether my database has been created or my data is being stored, I wanted to see it, I'm going to use a Mongo shell. So now I am connecting to the my mongodb local host with this port. Now I see show dbs, show databases. So now I can see my database is successfully created based on my application. Now I use Narayana database. Okay, now it has been switched. Now I need to see my collections are created or not. That is the command you're supposed to use. If you use the compass, you can see like a SQL editor. So now I can see that there is a data. Yes, it is available. That is the name of the domain. That is a collection. To see the content, I have to follow certain basic Mongo query commands at the command line. Okay, like find. DB is a fixed word and name of the collection followed by find. There are various syntaxes. Please go ahead. And now you can see that 20 records which is displaying. So www, and this is the one, something like that. It has been scrolled up, even narayana.com. You can see here. Okay. Now it is still saying that if you want more records, type IT. So I am typing. So total 30 records. Yes, exactly. I can able to see that. Now what I do is I'm going to use a browser. So here I say 10,000 is my port. I say mongodb. Say I want a fixed domain, that is Narayana. How many records are there? Now I can see that all the 10 records of Narayana domain is there. Now what I can do is I can go to the my REST service. Come on. Now I take this REST endpoint. Okay. So I go ahead and say find by domain, say www.bsibty.com. This is the domain name I want. Now I can see that 11 to 20 basati.com is created. Now I want to find the aggregation. Say how many times of the same domain has been summed. I wanted to see it. Okay, wrong window, one there. So I'll go ahead and say yes, I do it. Now I can see that clearly basati has been 10 times stored. This is stored 10 times. This is unique results. So this is how this application has been implemented. Okay, so hope you can go ahead and try all these exercises. uh, I believe you can definitely learn better, and thanks for watching my videos. Please share it, like it, give a thumbs up, and I hope I come up with new videos. Thank you.